What is up, everybody? It is J Train back again with another video here to do another kind of podcast video. I don't know that this is going to be, say, a full feature length podcast that you guys have seen on my channel before, but I don't know if some of you who are new might not know what's going on here. But the people who have seen the videos recently, I recently had a video, a chiropractic video with a personal trainer, Shawn Raza. He's a personal trainer in the Northern Virginia area, around like the Falls Church area. If you are looking for personal training, you should definitely hit him up. His information will be made available on this video and as well, I'm sure, as we're talking and discussing and chatting on stuff. But I made a video recently after I had posted his chiropractic video asking you guys for questions that you might have for personal training. A lot of times, like, I'll post these videos on my channel and it'll just be like, what I want to show, or a lot of these trainers will show like, what they want to show without actually pulling the audience. And, I thought it'd be a useful thing. So those of you who actually gave us some questions, thank you. You gave us some content to chat with here. And I know that Shawn's going to give some great, advice here. And, this doesn't have to be a one-off. If you guys have any questions after listening to this, or notice that, Shawn is really good at, what he does, because he is, and would like other stuff, I mean, I'm sure that we could do this again. So thank you for being here, Shawn. How are you doing tonight?
What's going on, J Train? Thanks for having me. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm winding down. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to answer any questions that people needed answered, from a unbiased, keep it real kind of perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're a personal trainer in the Northern Virginia like area. Like you kind of do.
Certified personal trainer and certified strength coach as well. I service people in the Northern Virginia area, whether they have access to a gym or not. I train people in their apartment gyms, office gyms, and I also just recently got certified in online coaching as well. So I'm still learning the ropes, but I'm also been trying to keep up with being being more catering to the people, because nowadays everybody's online. So
For
it's
sure.
good to accommodate that situation, and with the unfortunate circumstances that have been brought upon us, I'm just good to be using that to my advantage, and being able to further my education on how to answer people's questions and help people get in shape, not only physically but mentally as well.
Has it been difficult for you dealing with COVID? I know the answer to that is yes, but I guess what I'm really asking when I ask you that question is, how have you adapted to the COVID situation? And for those who want to have access to a personal trainer but might not necessarily be able to get personal training, what has been different from the traditional kind of seeing the client, running them through the workout that
Right,
you've used to
right.
adapt? And what can people do nowadays for personal training to be safe?
Right. Well, I have to say, when COVID started, it was I was super distraught. A lot of people, due to obvious reasons, wouldn't want to be training in such close proximity. For anybody that's seen personal trainers in the gym, we're pretty close to you guys. So we like to get up close and personal and really, really focus on making sure that the proper muscles are being engaged. So not being able to be physically in person for a lot of my clients was a bit of a challenge, but I use that as a way to kind of brush up on my editing skills in terms of social media content. So I'm sure at the end of the podcast, Jason will link my social media handles on here. But I'm on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course TikTok. So definitely, it was a huge culture shock for me. Not only because I up until COVID season, essentially, I had only written a handful of programs for people who didn't want to train in person but would rather do it online. So as soon as COVID hit, I was like, man, everybody's on their phones, or they're teleworking, or they're clearly not leaving their homes. So how can I adapt to this situation? So was when I decided to start doing virtual. Well, I first started with what I know best, which is personal training, but virtually. So, I would send clients questionnaires, having them answer what uh, pieces of equipment they have accessible to them. And I would send them questionnaires. And after I'd gather that information, I would essentially run them through a personal training session, pretty much the same rules, an hour of personal training virtually. It would be through FaceTime or Skype or something like that. And I would have my clients angle the camera in a way that I could see their form based off of, the respective exercise. And that's essentially what I had started doing. And then a little bit throughout the COVID season as well, I started hosting some live Zoom workouts,
Oh,
it's
that's
totally
cool.
free just for anybody that wants to hop in and, just needs a little boost. It started off as me just setting up my tripod at my gym and at my apartment gym, or even at home at the very beginning when we were all quarantined here in Virginia. Just kind of like telling people, you guys can follow along, just do what I do type thing. And, that got a little bit of traction. I noticed that people liked that. So started doing Zoom workouts and virtual personal training sessions. And then eventually I started, after I got my online coaching certification, I started marketing my online coaching. So essentially, for those of you that don't know what online coaching is, it's pretty much personal training without having a trainer per se. I'm there virtually. I hold you accountable, and I set your workouts. And depending on if you want nutrition advice as well or nutrition structured for you, I will be doing that as well. So essentially, you have a plan in front of you, a program in front of you, and you look at what you have to get done for the week. It's custom tailored to every single person because everybody's different. Everybody has different fitness goals and things they want to achieve by exercising. So everything's hand catered, and I make sure that everything that is being programmed to the consumer is being carried out in a way that's accommodating and understanding. So a good thing about online coaching that's actually gives people who are online coaching and not in-person personal training an edge is that when you have an online coach, they're essentially, you have them in the palm of your hand. So I've had clients call me at odd times of the night, or FaceTime me to form check them and stuff like that, and that's totally fine. Because being an online trainer essentially means that you have to be able to adapt to different time zones and different accommodations for different people. So that's a bit of an edge that clients get when they have me or any online coach as a trainer, because they're able to have essentially a trainer in the palm of your hand without all the extraness. Now, we can go dive deeper into the pros and cons of online coaching versus personal training. That would take quite a bit, but essentially, tracing back to the original question, um, learning anything that can be transitioned into something online, I believe nowadays is a really, really superior skill. If you have it,
For sure.
you know how to, if you do something well, learn how to monetize it. And if you've learned how to monetize it and it's not online, learn how to do that now. So that would be my general piece of advice to anybody who's trying to, even if it's not online coaching and fitness, but who's trying to monetize off of something that they believe people can benefit off from. I'm sure a lot of people in the world honestly saw that a lot of businesses that they thought were doing great, fell under due to this worldwide pandemic and the economy shutting down. So it's good to have something that's I want to say pandemic proof. So essentially, that's kind of a little bit of my journey. Lucky for us here in Virginia, things are starting to open back up, and gyms have been opened up for quite about 3 or 4 months now. So they were closed for 3 or 4 months. Now they're open for 3 or 4 months as well. It's the fourth month now. So I'm able to transition back slowly into in-person personal training, which I absolutely love. But I'm definitely going to continue doing online coaching because it's really fascinating, being able to cater to someone honestly without ever meeting them. Some of my clients that I have online I've never even met. So I thought that's really cool. And being able to see people achieve their goals based off of skills that I can provide them it's a really satisfying feeling.
Well, yeah, well, that's actually probably a good thing that I can ask you now is like, let's say, someone's listening to this podcast right now and they live in, Denver. I mean, there are people on my channel, for example, where I'm going to, post this. I've had views from everywhere around the world, every single country around the world. If there is
That's
somebody, oh, go ahead, say that again.
So that's really impressive.
Oh, thanks. No, I'm not trying to flex or anything. I'm
I
asking.
love it. No, I absolutely love it. I think it's so fascinating, man.
I love it too, man. I mean, like what a time to like live, man. I mean, to see that there are people in, India or something watching this videos and saying like, "Hey, cool videos." I'm like, "Wow, how would that ever happen?" Or being able to talk to somebody in like the UK who wanted to talk about the videos. I mean, that's pretty awesome. But like, let's say one of these people in France, Spain, India, Vietnam, Australia or whatever is listening to this and is like interested in having a conversation with you or whatever, or even like, let's say you guys talk and they want to do like some sort of like personal training. Is that something you could do effectively, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the only barrier really would be the time zone difference. But once again, with online coaching, we set a date when your program starts. You kind of follow along, and I'm there to help in terms of in-person or personal training sessions virtually, like I was saying I was doing at the beginning of COVID. That would be a bit of a barrier with the time difference, but I don't see how two individuals willing to work, myself and the client, couldn't get it, taken care of. So
Right. And
I
this
don't
is
see
what
how that
you've
would be a barrier.
yeah, absolutely. And this is what you've like this is kind of what you do mostly full time. Is this kind of like what you've made like your career out of?
100%,
Yeah. So I mean,
110%, man.
yeah, so I mean, I work a 9 to 5, but I mean, this is like something you could potentially do, 24/7, depending on your
Right.
clients. That's pretty awesome. Um,
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
yeah, for sure. Now, the one reason, the major reason why I have you here to talk is we did actually have some questions from that video that I did
Cool.
post, and we can go through these. We got a good number in terms of like a nice ratio of the number of questions to how long you can spend on each question. So it's like you don't have to rapid fire through them, and it's not like we're gonna spend 5 hours on one topic either. So this is
No, that's cool. You might have to cut me short because I mean I'm a nut about this stuff. I can talk about this stuff all day.
for sure. I feel like I'm pretty good at moderating, so I think I'll be able to lead you and try not to make it awkward like another podcast. But
Of course, of course.
sure. So let's just dive right into it. The first
Do it.
question that we have is from one of my best subscribers, actually, J1 High Five. Love that person. They're great. They just want to know, the one question that they had is, what's a good weight to lift for a beginner? That's a massive like basic question, but
Wow.
that's what they were asking.
All right. Well, hey, J1 High Five. Thank you for the question. And I'm sure a lot of these questions, Jason, feel free to chime in as well because you have a vast knowledge on bodybuilding yourself just from doing it as a hobby.
Yeah.
So, but good weight to lift as a beginner. I would say, it really depends on your fitness goals and what you're trying to achieve through fitness level as well. But in terms of think of it like an experiment. When I'm asked the question, what's a good weight to lift as a beginner? There's just an array of questions that are, sub questions that are brought up to my mind. Now, I would definitely say always start small, always start with lighter weight and focus on form. And this might sound cliche, and I'm sure this is, said a lot by not only fitness professionals, but everybody, but it's still a mistake that's made today. A lot of people are using heavy weights without proper form, and I think people who neglect form in the beginning of their fitness journey tend to carry on those habits into the rest of their fitness journey and the rest of their life, and it's just not healthy. So, in terms of finding a good weight, I would highly recommend you experiment a little bit, starting small, of course, starting with smaller weights and seeing what you're comfortable with. Now, in terms of repetitions, I'm sure that's going to be another follow-up question if we ever have a chance to have another follow-up session. But in terms of repetitions, I'll go ahead and answer that now. Start with a high amount of repetitions. So I would say 15 to 20 reps to see how that exercise feels. And of course, make sure your form is on point. There are a multitude of tutorials for exercises on YouTube and even my social media handles. I do a bunch of exercise tutorials on the funky exercises that I still see being performed incorrectly. So um, don't be afraid to ask questions to anybody that you believe has a good physique or somebody that you believe knows what they're doing, and look up tutorials on the exercise you're trying to do and start small, start light, and make sure you're doing it correctly. And then when you feel comfortable enough, do the same amount of repetitions that you did that first time with that heavier weight, and so on and so forth. And essentially based off of everybody's individual goals, you can adjust your repetitions and reps and sets and all that as necessary as you feel whatever would benefit you more. So that would be my answer to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I guess the only thing I would add to that is, just kind of like what Shawn said is, you know, start with like a very, if you've never done the exercise before,
Yeah,
start with little to almost no weight. I mean, if you can just like see like what like the mechanics are of the lift and just kind of see how your body reacts to it, that's great. I mean, even today there are like exercises that I've never done before, or like machines that, like, let's say instead of a leg press, it's like an inclined leg press. I want to know what it's like to do that with like 10 pounds of weight first, to see how, like, what parts of my body are going to start like pinching or being weird or whatever, because I don't want to find that out when I'm doing it with like 300 pounds. That's how you get injured.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how you get injured and such. And I mean, exactly, kind of, what Shawn said. It depends on what your fitness goals are, and it depends on, like, what your uh, what exercise, like what you're doing. And if you've never like done the exercise before, I think a lot of times we see in pop culture, it's about like, being like this monster hardcore, going into the gym, killing the weight and everything like that. But it all starts with, like, you have to build that great foundation and know where you're at, when you're lifting, and like what is
I
a
agree.
safe weight for you. Yeah,
I 100% agree. It's super, super crucial to know what you're doing. And I made that mistake at the beginning of my fitness journey too. I would feel like I'd be halfway through a workout and I'm like, okay, I'm warmed up enough, and I'd hop into another workout with adequate to heavy weight on there, thinking it would go as smooth as the beginning of my workout did. And I ended up, either being super stiff, injuring myself, or just it just wasn't a good lift. And you kind of get a feel for these things. And like Jason said, it's really hard with pop culture and everybody on Instagram doing these funky exercises for the clout and all the views and stuff like that. But it's just good to know your limits. And if you're young, your older self will thank you. If you're old, you know what your joints can handle. So it's just good to stay within those boundaries, until you're ready to advance properly.
absolutely. Well, I hope that helped answer your question there, J1 High Five. Of course, if you have follow up questions, we'd be happy to have them. The next, I guess the final two questions I have, they're from the same user, Tongue Pop. The first question that they ask is, they're a dancer, and they need to be able
Okay.
to, yeah, they need to be able to lift people above their head. What exercises would you recommend to do to achieve this? Which is a very interesting question, because that's not the same thing as like saying, like, I want to be able to do Olympic lifts and cleans and shoulder presses and all that stuff. So I'm interested to see what you have to say on this. I don't think I can add much at all here.
Right. Well, what type of lift do you need to do to lift people overhead? So, right off the bat, I'm going to say I highly recommend focusing on overall body strength. And what that essentially means is placing emphasis on compound movements, such as, the big four: squats, benches, deadlifts, and standing military press. Now, out of those four compound movements, you're probably going to get the most benefit out of the standing military press, because it is an overhead exercise utilizing the main muscles that will be used in picking someone up over your head. So I'd highly, highly recommend going ahead and focusing on not just individualizing those muscle groups, but working on overall strength as a whole. And the reason, what I mean by that is essentially, like, if you know that if I tell you your shoulders, developing strong rounded shoulders and an upper chest and strong trapezius muscles is going to help you lift someone over your head, you know, don't neglect the other muscles. To do everything in unison and essentially make sure that your strength is balanced. But place a little more emphasis and spend a little more time on those compound movements. And if you don't know what a compound movement is, by definition, essentially, a compound movement is an exercise that hits multiple muscle groups as once. In bodybuilding and modern fitness, people refer to the compound movements as the four exercises that I stated, which are squat, bench, deadlift, and standing military press. But those aren't all the compound movements in the book. Those are just the most popular and the most well known, and honestly, the best bang for your buck. So if you're coming into the gym and you don't have much time, but you want to get a good solid lift in, I would highly recommend doing a variation of compound exercises and making sure that you're tracking um, the amount of weight that you're putting up on those compound exercises. Because one of the biggest mistakes I made in my beginning fitness journey was I didn't track anything. I didn't take many pictures of myself, my body. I didn't write down many. I didn't take many notes of on my numbers on my squat, my bench, my deadlift, and stuff like that. And by the time I actually started gaining traction and getting knowledgeable on fitness and the exercise aspect and dieting and all that, I was already pretty far into my fitness journey. And I'm like, man, I forgot what it feels like to be at the beginning. And I kind of wish I had something to look back to. So if you're at the beginning, definitely document your progress in everything, whether that's the diet, how you look in the mirror. And this goes for men and women, take pictures of yourself in the mirror for yourself and, just look at them every once in a while. And if you're on a steady route to getting better at what you do in the gym and getting stronger and working on your physique, whether that's for, the aesthetic look of it or for legitimate strength, track it, track your strengths, track your lifts, write down, all the numbers you put up for warm ups and working sets, all of that, and make sure you hold yourself accountable to that. But yeah, tracing back to the question, in order to lift people overhead, you're going to need a lot of strength, overall body strength, not just specialized strength in those certain muscles, but focus on those compound lifts. And as I said earlier, form over function. Always, make sure you get the form down before you can properly execute the function. So compound lifts are key.
Sure, and in the case of those exercises in particular, squats, deadlifts, military press, bench, right? Bench. Is that something where you would advise someone who's never lifted before to just try it, or would they need to talk to somebody?
So, I mean, I'm a personal trainer, so I would 150% always recommend somebody consult the trainer before doing anything.
For those ones
It's
especially, though,
not
right?
right, right. So the compound movements, I always tell clients this, and if any of my clients ever listen to this, they can vouch for me. But I always tell my clients that there's a lot of coaching on my end involved for compound movements, and for the person doing them, there's a lot of cues you have to do. Essentially, for example, on a squat, on a standard barbell squat, it's not just get up under it, lift it, and breathe in and out. It's you got to get up under it while the bar's still on the rack and you haven't unracked it. You want to make sure your feet are nice and stable into the ground. You have a nice point of impact on the ground. You want to make sure your heels are planted. Take a deep breath once again while the bar is still on your back. Exhale to essentially remove the bar off. So take a deep breath while it's on your back and remove it with a light inhale with a light exhale. Take a few steps back. Make sure your back is straight. Brace your core and then drop into the squat. And don't flex your legs on the way down on the squat. That's the most common mistake I see. People are flexing their legs, and because they're flexing their legs, they're unable to go past parallel. But essentially, that's going to dive us into a whole nother topic. But essentially, brace your core, take a deep breath in through the core, like take a stomach breath. Another mistake that I myself made, and I'm sure Jason you made as well, is taking a breath through your esophagus, through your neck, and holding it before squatting. But essentially, you have to take a big brace through your core and then drop into that squat and exhale on the way up, not when you're already up, on the way up while maintaining a straight back and a tight core, reaching ass to grass depth or similar, lower than parallel, and making sure you're being mindful of your joints and any other cues that involve exhibiting good form, making sure you're being mindful of those and holding yourself true to those. And that's just for squat, like benching, deadlifts, especially deadlifts as well. There are a lot more cues because the compound movement, since we're working more muscle groups, it's important to really, really like dial in on the form because I mean, it's important to dial in on the form on any exercise, but the reason I'm really emphasizing it on compound lifts is solely for the fact that on an exercise like a bicep curl, it's pretty much A to B. Like the movement is A to B. Essentially, you're lifting the weight and you're activating your biceps, making sure your core is tight. There's not many coaching cues, but since we're lifting we're using multiple muscle groups on compound movements. It's just really good to make sure that you have the form down. And if once again, if you're new to working out, I would highly recommend consulting a personal trainer, or asking somebody who you know for a fact is knows what they're doing in the gym, and or just researching, and not only researching but applying that research. So trying, if you read an article on how to bench or how to squat, apply those tactics. And like I said in the last question, document it, make a video of yourself squatting or benching, because you get used to exhibiting what you believe is good form, but in reality, bench press, you're arching your back too much, or if it's a squat, you're not coming low enough. Like, and you're too egotistical to ask someone for help or ask someone for critique. It's going to be really hard when you get comfortable with lifting weight, because a lot of people to this day I see, they have great physiques and they look like they know what they're doing, but when you look closer at them working out, they're not really delivering in on exhibiting proper form, So I would just highly recommend, if you have the tools and accessibility, which in 2020 it's hard to deny, I would highly recommend, seeing a trainer or asking someone that is really knowledgeable with for advice, on how to perfect your lifts before you get deeper into the fitness journey. I just think that's so crucial, and a lot of people just kind of disregarded. Like, it's like, oh, I don't need a trainer. I can get this with a couple of YouTube videos. Of course, anything can be learned. Vast research online, but the reason people get a trainer, and essentially the reason I still have a job, is because um, I can save you the time and
Right,
tell you
right,
what I did wrong in my journey,
for
so
sure.
you avoid doing it. They say in order to be successful, you have to be coachable, and even some of the world's greatest Fortune 500 CEOs and millionaires and billionaires have mentors themselves. So essentially, it's not. It shouldn't be more of an ego thing. It should be more of I want to get a mentor, or in this case, I want to get a trainer, so they can teach me proper form, and make sure that I don't make mistakes that many people make mistakes doing for the rest of their fitness journey. So that should always be the mindset when you're learning a new skill. In this case, fitness. Fitness is a vast world of many entities, and there's just so many things that one can learn, and many of those things could not always be the most valid. And there's a lot of things online that you're going to read that aren't going to be so valid, and you're going to need some validation on that. So it's good to have someone to tell you what to do, essentially. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I mean, you can overstep the learning the hard way parts where like you screw up and
Yes,
potentially like
100%.
injure yourself.
But yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean that's great. Now, would you also recommend that they kind of do a mix of like say personal training and also talking to like their dance instructor, and kind of developing, like, is there
Yeah.
something where like you or even you could be in a world where like you collaborate with say like their dance instructor and be like, yo, this is what I'm helping him with that can kind of help him, this is, or her, like
Right.
this is where
No,
they're at
no.
with their ability.
Absolutely. Now, dancing, like Jason said at the beginning of the response to the question, um, dancing is not like powerlifting or lifting weights or anything like that. But essentially, personal trainers, fitness coaches, and strength coaches like myself, uh, we have resources and materials and knowledge to help someone like yourself, who's a dancer, be able to exhibit proper movements, with regards to not only your form but your sport. So while dancing might be a little different than somebody who's trying to pack on muscle, don't fall into the misconception that trainers and bodybuilders only know enough to cater to themselves. It's really likely that a trainer that you find that's local, or somebody like myself, knows about dancing as a sport and is able to help you regarding that. If you have access to a personal trainer, and in conjunction with your dance instructor, I would definitely get some info, whatever info you can from the trainer in regards to the help you need, and run it by your dance instructor to kind of have some clarification, you know, and that will definitely be able to clarify some things in your mind and make sure that you're doing everything correctly and safely. That's the most important part,
Right.
safety. I always try to reiterate that through whether it's through exhibiting proper form, whether it's through eating the right, fueling yourself the right way before a workout, whether it's recovery. Safety is always my top priority for my clients, and I believe should be everybody's priority when they're in the gym, essentially. So having the help of a trainer, and more so a trainer that's specifically catered to strength and athletes, and having that accessibility to your dance instructor or coach for your sport is a recipe for success, honestly.
For sure.
So
For sure.
highly recommend it for sure.
Absolutely. Cool. I mean, I think that's a great answer to that.
Well,
The final question that I have for the night, and it's great because we're doing great on time, and this would be a great last question to have. Um, what is it's from Tongue Pop again, the dancer.
okay.
What is the best cardio you recommend when you're short on time?
Oh, easy. Anything that's considered hit training, and if you don't know what hit training is, it's essentially it's HIIT, hit training, and what that stands for is high intensity interval training. And essentially, what a hit workout is, it's designed to be short on time. So a hit workout really only lasts 20 to 30 minutes at the most. And what you do during that hit workout, essentially, it's called high intensity interval training. So your heart rate's super elevated, and what you're able to do with that elevated heart rate. Essentially, when you're going through a hit workout, think of it like a zigzag line. Your heart rate slows down and then it speeds up, and it slows down and then it speeds up. And those sudden changes in heart rate, essentially, if you're being fueled the proper way before that workout, are going to result in your body entering a fat burning zone. And that'll really benefit you and still allow you to net almost all the benefits you would, equivalent to a run or a speed walk or doing the stair stepper for 45 minutes, something like that. And if you pair a hit workout, if you incorporate resistance training, which is essentially weightlifting, into a hit workout, which is possible, you'll truly be able to burn fat, or burn fat and build muscle at the same time. And a lot of people think that's phony. They're like, you can't build muscle and burn fat at the same time. You can. It's not going to be as optimized as if you focus solely on the resistance training aspect of it, but it's definitely possible. And one of the best ways to do that is through hit training, high intensity interval training. So if you've never heard of that, definitely look it up. There's a huge plethora of videos all over YouTube, Instagram, and all that jazz, talking about different hit workouts that can be fun. Now, unfortunately, doing cardio on a short amount of time, if you really want to reap the benefits, hit training would be your best option. But you can always hop on a stairmaster and just do some moderate speed stairs, or some moderate speed walk on a treadmill, or even go for a light run. That's what I would highly recommend in terms of cardio. But when it comes to the time crunches, hit training is most definitely the best bang for your buck, because you're able to lose fat and build muscle at the same time if you do it properly.
Fantastic. Now, do you have like an example of like a starting hit training that they could do? Is it just like say sprinting back and forth or?
Uh, I would highly recommend, if you have access to battle ropes, do a battle rope circuit. For those of you that don't know what battle ropes are, they're essentially a large set of ropes that are tied around a pole. They're very common in commercial gyms, and they're really heavy, these ropes, and you hold each side of the rope in different hands, in each of your hands, and you essentially, it looks like you're slapping the ropes on the ground at a very high speed. And since the ropes are heavy, your body's using power to, lift them up and down. And you're also doing it very fast. You're doing it at a fast speed. So that's causing your heart rate to elevate, putting you in the fat burning zone. That's an example of a hit workout. Sprint intervals are good examples of hit workouts. Also, I would definitely recommend circuit style training program. And for those of you that don't know what a circuit style training program is, essentially going through stations essentially. So like you finish like station one, let's say is a chest exercise. You finish that, and then you go immediately to a bicep exercise, and then you go immediately to a leg exercise. Whether it's a full body day or an upper body day, whatever, you can customize your own program, and you can go from exercise to exercise with little to no rest in between. So the reason I emphasize that is because that is what's going to be in charge of keeping the heart rate up, and which will essentially be why that circuit is classified as a hit training, so there's tons of examples of hit training. I would definitely, my favorite hit exercise would have to be the battle ropes or some type of resistance training circuit, so you can essentially compose your own hit training through putting stuff together and making sure you're mindful of your time and not spending too long resting in between those exercises. Any workout can really be transformed into a hit workout if you really put your mind to it and focus.
Right on. I think that's great information. That's actually all the questions that we have tonight. So I hope that those questions were thank you for everyone who did give us questions.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Keep them
I mean,
coming.
I think this was really great, and I hope we do it again sometime soon. If you guys have any other questions that you'd like to ask, Shawn, I'm sure he'd love to come back on again and discuss
Absolutely.
this. I mean, I've learned a lot as well, and I've been doing this for a long time. And let's if people are interested in training with you, Shawn, how can they find you, and how could they like book with you, and how can they interact with you to get
I'll have
information?
I'll have Jason link you guys to my handles on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz. You guys can feel free to send me a DM. I'll have Jason write it all out so I don't have to spell it. But and of course, if you have a question for me, feel free to ask Jason. And he's a good friend of mine, so we keep in contact very closely. So he'll relay me the message, and I'd love to help one of you guys in person. That would be an honor, really, and essentially, hopefully, be able to help you reach your fitness goals and teach you a couple things or two.
Right on. All right, Shawn. Well, thanks for being here tonight, and
No, thank you, Jason.
yep, absolutely. Have a great night.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks, guys, for
See,
listening.
see you guys.